back.
Good to be back. Wow, what a nice
It's a lovely audience. I think we're all equally excited you're here, and congratulations. Since the last time you were here, you won an Emmy for Barry and a Peabody Award.
Thanks,
It's
man.
really exciting.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And you were actually in the building. You were doing Willie Geist's show today.
Yeah, I was.
Doing press for Barry, and you got this. Never happened before. You used to play Keith Morrison on SNL.
I used to play Keith Morrison on SNL, the Dateline guy.
Yeah.
Who's one of my personal heroes.
Yeah.
He makes me laugh. I don't know if you know him. He likes to tell terrible true crime stories in a very sing-song kind of way. Oh, wow. Yeah. So
you met him.
I met him today.
You finally met him.
And it was like the Beatles, and I was like, yeah, I was freaking out.
Does he like the impression?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go, I hope you don't, did you like the impression? He went, oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it was very good, very good. And then, yeah, but I was nervous, but he was very sweet.
That's great. Yeah. And then you were back at SNL earlier this year when our friend John Mulaney hosted. Yeah. Is it fun to go back and do a little cameo on the show?
Yeah, no, it was a blast. It was so much fun, and it's just good seeing everybody and things like that. I mean, I was going to go back and just do the talk show sketch.
The game show
sketch. And then they were like, I was watching the Michael Cohen thing, and I saw Jim Jordan on there, and I was like, I'm going to have to play Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
And then I showed up, and Lauren was like, so, I don't know if you watched the Michael Cohen, but there's a guy right in your zone. And I was like, great. So
one of the nice things is you, of course, when you come back and do a cameo, you don't have to do the crazy hours as much. So, but one of the upsides of the crazy hours is the fun that you have at like 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You were recalling a thing Fred Armisen used to do to me.
Yes, Fred Armisen would mess with Seth. So Seth was the head writer when I was there, and Seth worked incredibly long hours, and Seth would get very little sleep. And so when Seth would go home and sleep, Fred would just be like around 4 o'clock. He'd be like, "Hey man, do you think Seth's asleep?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he would call Seth, pretending that he was like a morning zoo crew guy, so the bit was that Fred was being interviewed on a radio show, and he gave out your phone number live.
Yeah.
And so he would have you on speakerphone, and you hear like, hello? And he'd be like, hey, we're on with Mr. Seth Meyers. How's it going? And then Fred would start apologizing. He'd be like, Seth, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't know they were going to read it out loud on the air. I gave him your phone number. And you're like, wait, what is going on? We would all be dying laughing.
Yeah, I was not happy.
Oh, and you were like, what? And then we'd hang up. Be like, you, Seth. Bye.
This is obviously a very, yeah. I can look back on it now.
Oh, but you worked so hard. You worked such crazy hours.
Yeah, Fred was, Fred could always find that time where you were so tired and you didn't want any nonsense, and he would come and bring you such delightfully crafted nonsense that you had to sort of tip your hat.
Yeah, you'd be like, no, that was great, man.
I
did another bit was that people would always bring us gifts after they would host, remember? So someone would host and you would get cupcakes the next week. Like, Melissa McCarthy sent us cupcakes or whatever. And I remember Fred would just come in with it'd be like a 6-pack of Coke, but 4 of them were missing. And he would come and be like, hey guys, look what Steve Martin got us. And then if something terrible, do you remember in Pitch, if something really terrible had happened in the news?
Yeah.
He would say, Colin Jost, so he would pitch, we would go around the pitch meeting, and Lorne Michaels would be like, Seth, and then Seth would pitch, and he would go around, and we all pitch ideas. So it was Fred and then Colin Jost, and then if something terrible had happened in the news, I don't know,
a tragedy.
Yeah. The guy raised a girl in his basement or something. He'd be he goes, hey, you read the thing about the girl in the basement? I think that's terrible, but Colin wants to write a piece about it. I don't know why. Colin would be like,
He would also do it.
He would be so nervous.
He would also do it with people that definitely, like, the kind of host that definitely didn't know who Colin was.
Yeah.
So it would immediately be like, they'd be like, oh, I don't like that man.
I'm not going to work with him
I don't
all
wanna
week.
do
And
his
Colin,
thing,
yeah,
yeah.
and Fred would be like, I don't know why he wants to do a piece about that, but it's his thing. You should ask him. Colin would be like,